So we have a panel of 5 members who would be enlightening us with their wisdom, with their experiences, and to understand what actually matters.
Now we welcome Sahiti, co-founder of Creative Economy Impact Collective, as the moderator.
Can we have a round of applause, please, from the audience?
Vanita, Associative Partner of PwC.
We welcome you, ma'am. Please have a seat.
Dr. Bammidi Sandeep, Surgical Oncologist and Robotic Surgeon.
And Mr. Pranav, Tridhav Builders. We also have one more speaker, Venkata Krishna Deep, Padhati LLP. Request you to please have a seat. Now, we would like to move on to the stage and over to your moderator.
Very good evening to everyone, and we welcome you to the CSR Summit. And today, this panel, we'll be speaking about the theme saying, measuring what matters. And for over a decade, India's CSR ecosystem has evolved significantly. We have become better at measuring outputs, outcomes, compliance, and reporting. But a fundamental question still remains. How would we measure what is not measurable? Because in CSR, in the impact space, in the social space, we are dealing with people, places, the economy that is very, very difficult to measure. So, have we become equally good at measuring lasting change, or are we simply getting better at measuring itself? Every measurement framework reflects what we choose to value. While numbers are essential, most of the meaningful outcomes are trust, dignity, purpose, community ownership, resilience, and behavioral change, and the patterns that change at the bottom of the pyramid are often the hardest things to quantify, to understand, and to measure. If these are the very foundations of sustainable development, should we be rethinking what success in CSR truly matters and how it can be revisited and reimagined? So, most of the CSR initiatives are evaluated as individual projects, but social change really happens in isolation. It happens when institutions, communities, governments, and businesses begin working as an interconnected ecosystem. So perhaps the next frontier in impact measurement is not evaluating projects in silos, but understanding whether the entire ecosystems have become more stronger at its own sense. So I welcome our panel members today, and I would request you to please give a 2-line introduction about yourself before we jump into the first question.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vanita Gangwani. I'm a partner with PwC, and I lead the CSR advisory practice for the firm, wherein I have been helping the corporates, foundation, and their implementing partners in their social journey. And we have been helping them to kind of advise in terms of how to strategize, manage, and measure impact.
So I'm Pranav. I previously worked with the government, and I'm helping public policy, consultants.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Bammidi Sandeep, surgical oncologist and robotic surgeon. I am coming from Srikakulam Medicover Hospitals.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Venkata Krishna Deep. I am co-founder of Padhati LLP. We are a public policy consultant. And I had a corporate stint, after which I had a 10-year stint of CSR and NGO activities. And I'm back to policy consulting, so I'm happy to be here.
So my first question to all the panelists is, as I put the context forward, there's a system, there are frameworks and there are templates on how the CSR impact reports need to be made. But what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on how differently we can start looking at measuring the CSR and start measuring what cannot be measured?
Thank you. I think that's a very pertinent question. While in CSR or any of the social project, if we talk about, there often have been reports coming in which are talking about the output activities that we have been able to do in terms of numbers, what can be counted. But the idea is how to measure the impact that we have been able to create because of the output that we have been able to achieve. What is the outcome or the change that we have been able to bring in the life of the people that we have been working with? That's impact measurement. But the play here is the mindset, the intention. If we talk about impact assessment or measuring the impact as only the compliance-driven exercise because the law asks you for, then the reports or whatever you talk about the impact measurement will comprise of only the numbers which have been reported for the sake of reporting it not only to the regulators but for the communities that we have been working with. The idea is beyond the numbers, how we have changed or bring in a change in the life of the beneficiary is what is the impact that we have been able to. For that, we have various frameworks in place, right? There are globally accepted frameworks. There has been a change in the mindset of the people while they were doing it for compliance, but now they are using it as an important exercise to, one, take data-driven decisions. Secondly, improvise onto their own projects, how the insights which are being captured through this impact measurement exercise can help them to improvise their intervention further, right? So that's impact measurement. And with these framework in place, like if you talk about OECD DAC framework, IRIC framework, and now many of the corporates have also started using social return on investment, which is SROI. While you are measuring the impact that you have been able to create, you are also assessing the feasibility in terms of the financial measure, what has been the social return on the investment you have been able to. So I would suggest when it comes to impact measurement, we have taken good time to kind of adopt to what was required and what we think is a good practice to do. But then now things are changing. People are working towards what actually matters, not only for the compliance perspective, but for the community, for themselves to take decision, data-driven decisions, as well as to see how it is improvising the work that they have been doing and communicating in a manner which is impactful. Yeah, so that's my take on impact.
Like for example, when it comes to education, it is outcome measure, right? You look at the educational outcomes, how they are doing, the metrics like attendance, the teacher pupil ratio and all that. But I think reduction of crime rate, increase in upskilling, employment rate are also few things, which are the, intangibles which are being measured. I think the quality of life, even the health outcomes are also related to it. So like she said, SROI is a new metric which has come. And there are other few metrics of lifestyle which are also there to be looked upon. We'll discuss about other models.
Creating an impact with the CSR, always give an example of a healthcare perspective. So, for example, if one CSR fund is giving at least one life, if he is getting that life with the help of a CSR activity, so his family will get that impact. So, life getting that. For example, if you take from my perspective, I would rather say, for example, if a head of the poorest family, if it's a dairy laborer, if he's infected with or suspected with a cancer, so his family members completely will be deprived of everything from everyone. So if that CSR, if it helps that person, so he will come out of that treatment, he can create impact to his family. So impact measurement always it is always individualized. It's always individualized. We need to see at an individual, because for example, if a CSR is given some a machine to run a rural thing. So for that machine, so a lot of people will be working. So it is an impact to that people because they will get the job opportunity. And for the patient perspective, then we can diagnose the different things and we can diagnose them. So patient perspective, it will also impact that group of community. So I always say CSR funding should be more towards giving quality of life, as Sir told, giving quality of life and giving an impactful measurement is to save the person from getting out of these calamities, if anything he is having. Thank you.
I'll address this at a more personal level because I have been on both sides of the table. I began my career in the corporate and then I transitioned to the other side of the table at the NGO side. And so from both sides, the question always remains the same, that how far does my rupee roll? How far is the rupee going, into whose pocket and how? And how is it again coming back, into whose pocket and how? For example, the current, one of the examples I would like to pick is like we know that the government bus service is there. It is free for women. One way to look at impact measurement for that is, of course, they are able to travel from point A to point B. But has that really helped the households of those women who are traveling every day? And how many of these women's children are able to study? And how many of these women have had access to other opportunities, employment opportunities that they did not have before? So like you said, being able to tap into the intangible, that remains the question, and we will discuss this a bit further. But like while naming my firm, I decided to call it Paddhati because it literally means a method. So to be able to put a finger on what is intangible is very important.
We are entering an era of AI, real-time data, predictive analytics, and increasingly sophisticated dashboards. So technology is giving us a lot of visibility, but more data doesn't automatically transform into results. So what should the next generation of impact measurement look like? And before we actually conclude, I would like to shift from ideas to practice, and across your careers, if you have witnessed a model that is replicable or that can be prototyped in similar demographies, because each one of you come from a different, sir is from healthcare and you're from impact measurement, and we have a different palette over here. So I would like you to please share some successful models or case studies which people usually don't talk about. We only remember the first top 10 CSR projects. So something which is not the top 10 and which really stuck with you and that can be replicable across.
When it comes some such kind of project, while Saiti, you kind of gave the context, you mentioned a very important, the quiet trust, ownership, behavioral change, which we have been able to bring in. While we measure the impact as in the change in the income, maybe the numbers trained, the people employed, the skills that they have gone. The idea is because of those kind of changes, there is a behavior change, there is a trust that has been built. So there, I want to talk about one of the initiatives that we observed, which was related to the water. Right? So one of the impact measurement report talk about the 500 villages having access to clean water, right? So that was the impact that was being captured. But the real impact was the village committee, the water committee was being set up. That's the community ownership. That happened because of this initiative. There was women empowerment because now women are also participating in the decision making. That's the empowerment and dignity statement that we have been able to. Now more people, more children are going and there are less absenteeism. That's because the healthier lifestyle, because of the clean water access that they have. So these are the changes that we have been able to bring in, and how you are communicating it is also important, right? You can say that 500 villages now have access to clean water, or you can tell the trust that you have been able to bring in, the community ownership that is there, the dignity that you have given to the women is also one thing that one should be capturing because you should be proud of it, right? So that's how we have to kind of see about it. And one of the initiatives that stuck to me, it was not a very highly expensive or a big project, but it was a project, a Leh livelihood initiative implemented by Himothan Society in the Leh region of the country. Everybody knows it's a very difficult terrain, climate conditions are very tough. So you have to kind of come up with a solution that you, one, provide them with the economic benefit, but at the same time, you do not play around with, right? So that's how this initiative was very close to my heart while I interacted with the benefits there, because after this initiative, there were multiple income sources that were provided, right? Beyond one. If you could generally see, there are only one initiative that people kind of stuck to. But then they provided with multiple income generative initiatives like animal husbandry, along with the agriculture, or maybe other kind of things also, promoting the local culture without affecting the ecosystem that they were operating into. Taking some initiative, not only for the male members, but for the women and children also holistically, so that everybody is participating in it. And then there is an impact which is passing it on, right? Because you cannot be funding it throughout. You have to make an exit. And if there is a community ownership, that's how you kind of make an exit. So once they say that there is now less seasonal migration, women are empowered enough, there are initiatives or income that are coming from multiple sources. That's how they thought now it's the time, right? So that's one of the initiatives that I want. Thank you.
Yeah, nice to know about the Leh Ladakh, and water is a real crisis because it being a cold desert. So likewise, I have worked on educational sector. It was from the government of Telangana with the help of Ramakrishna Mutt and another few NGOs who were associated. So this initiative was called Pillala Kosam. It literally means for children. So the quotation, the motto which we had was it takes a village to raise a child. So for example, when it comes to a government school, it's not only the parents or the family which is affected, or it's not the next generation which is affected, it's the whole society. If there is no education, then it also affects the quality of living and the societal structure, even the crime rate. So the whole village as a stakeholder was helping the school and the parent teacher meetings and the school fees committees and the midday meal quality. So all of this was done, and this was a successful model of the previous government, okay, in Telangana. So now in this present government, it is being modified as Adarsha schools. So this is being replicated, and the educational outcome along with their life is being
Sir, for you, I just want to add, because as we were having a conversation about how cancer hits and how many stages are there, and because for you, more than the measuring part, what I want you to share is where all in this pathway of cancer CSR is required. Because mostly in healthcare, the measurement is pretty clear. The outcomes are clear. So where do you need, where is the gap to identify? Like, is it making enough awareness? Is it penetrating into the villages? It is a data collection that is a problem from your end. So can you throw a little bit of light on that, of where CSR is exactly required in your...
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Right question, I think. I think need of the hour for everyone, because as an individuals, we need to think about all these things for us also, for the community also, for the society also. See, for example, if you take in other countries like NHS, very famous NHS program or US programs, usually they have a screening measurements. Like every year, it's a paka program that they will go and screen themselves, like 60 to 70% penetration in other countries. If you take India, I'm giving only the statistics given by Government of India only. The penetration in metropolitan cities is only 2.5%. 2.5% for the screening. And for rural areas, it is about 0.4%. This is the pathetic situation we are having for the screening. Because screening is, why I tell screening is very important, because if how much early we will detect the cancer, that much good lifespan, that much good treatment, that much long live we can give to the patient. So screening is a very, very important aspect, very, very important aspect in the cancer care. And I would rather tell government, both central government and state governments, either Arogyasri or PMJY, whatever this thing, treatment is happening freely when it is diagnosed. That is definitely very helpful. I worked in all government colleges, now I shifted to a private institute, but we have also Arogyasri. So lot of people are getting into the corporate setups because of that Arogyasri scheme. This is very helpful in treating the patients. But we are getting stage 3, stage 4. Lot of cancers is stage 3, stage 4, very advanced stages. But we are not getting in early stage cancers. For early stage cancers, to get into the rural areas, I would rather say penetrate into the rural areas and educate people more in the urban areas. We can get into CSR activities more and more, and getting a good, as cancer screening on wheels. Now, a concept of cancer screening on wheels. We'd have a fully equipped bus which have mammography, which have PAPs for breast cancer, pap smear for cervical cancer, for colonoscopy for small intestine and large intestine cancers. We can have a bus screening, and we can get the individuals, and we can connect to these hospitals so that they will get the early treatment, treatment is free. As I already told, treatment is free. Getting that screening and detecting the cancer at an early stage, getting an awareness, because in rural areas, I would rather say females, the breast cancer symptoms, they will not tell to their husbands also. That much grave situation is there. I have seen hundreds of patients like that. So we need to bring awareness to the community, as AP NGOs, this nursing, GDA nursing people, and local female groups, which they go to every household and do the activities. We need to educate them. We need to tell them how to do a examination of breast, so that they will educate the the outreach patients, and we can get the early detection. I think screening is very, very much more down in India. I think we need to get in a very good thing, and thanks to Government of India, HPV vaccination has become free, but it is only giving up to 9 to 11 years. That is one of the filler, but more than 15 years also we need to give that HPV vaccination. That is very, very one of the important this thing, and hepatitis B vaccine, and educating people about this environmental effects, alcohol, smoking, and early symptoms. What are the early symptoms in cancer? Educating the people. Because why I am telling this very important is, if you see other countries, the survival is about 55 to 70% cancer survival. But you take India, it is about only coming all stages, all cancers. I am telling, it is about 20 to 25, 30%. This 20 to 25% gap is because our cancers are more advanced cancers. When compared to the West, our cancers are more advanced. Detecting rate is very, very less because of one is education and screening is very, very less. I think the penetration to the screening, I think any good CSR, this thing, because it will create a lot of impact. CSR is to create impact in people's life. It is not about funding projects. I always say it's not about funding something projects or doing one, giving one good photographs, taking one good group photographs. I don't creating an impact in one. If you detect one cancer early stage and if you use for 5 years, he will tell your name. I came with this thing because of the CSR. I was screened. I was lived because of this 5 years. Because most of the patients will tell to us. That's the thing, most of the patients will tell to us. Because doctor, మీ వల్ల నేను ఈ 2 సంవత్సరాలు బతికానంటే మీ వల్లనే బతికాను. So these are the things. Tata is doing a lot of things, but I think a lot of lacuna is there. Because I worked in Tata Memorial, Mumbai. We are doing a lot of activities. We have a separate stream in that. But very lacuna, funding is very less. Because community participation, without funding, we can't go. That is the only issue. And machines are very costly. What is the main issue in cancer treatment is machines are very costly. That is one of the main issues. So, anyways, we need to get that fund. Without that, we can't diagnose this thing. So, I think that's my view. Thank you.
So I'll just maybe bring this home with a small example about, again, water. So I had worked on a project with a very simple mandate, which is to clean water bodies. India has more than 5 lakh water bodies, what we call, in Telugu we call it as cheru. So these are water bodies that sustain rural water needs. And again, in Telugu there is a nice saying, Adaganide ammaina pettadu. Unless you ask, even your mother will not. And so what is the gap I feel in CSR and the problem for scale is, 2 things. How do you ask and how are you being asked? The NGO, like as many of you know, like we spend a lot of time writing proposals, writing projection outcomes and all these things. And we talk about our annual reports and our budgets and we try to impress upon the corporate that we can do what we are telling. And from the corporate side, it's also about how is the NGO asking. And so these things are tied, I feel, at trust and dignity. And just to summarize what we had done, we started off with a project for 5 lakh rupees. And at the end of 3 years, we brought the project 3.5 crores. And what started as 2 water bodies has now scaled up to 250 water bodies across 1 state. So that's the power of the proper reporting. And that's the power of understanding what is trust and what is dignity in the CSR sector. So since this is a larger context, we will discuss about that in maybe another panel. So thank you.
So to sum this off, there is an old management principle that says what gets measured gets managed. What gets measured also shapes what gets built. So for years, CSR has been measured in expenditure and beneficiaries. So these are important because accountability definitely matters. But every measurement system also sends a signal about what we value and what we carry. So if we only measure what is immediate, we may unintentionally overlook what is enduring. So thank you so much for being part of measuring what matters. And I hope that we expand our horizon in looking at how innovatively, creatively, and purposefully we can measure the CSR. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all the panelists and the moderator.
Thank you, panelists, for shedding light on robust frameworks for measuring genuine social impact.